happy today. I am William Brown from IamWilliamBrown.com, and there's a lot going on in my studio right now. But I'm going to fight through it, right? That it is great that that is the word for today. But yes, so I'm excited about that. I am William Brown from IamWilliamBrown.com. This is Disconnect to Connect, one word conversations. And our sponsor is IamWilliamBrown.com. And because that there was a lot going on, and I was, chatting up my guests because we're such dear friends, and even though I was keeping track of time, I wasn't keeping track of time. Right? I don't know if you've ever been in those situations, but I am going to live on air pick my intentions for the show that has already started. And so I'll start with the U card is you. I am full of grace. You probably can't see that because of all the lights and all that other kind of stuff. My UR card, the green card, is you are heard. So that's good. And my quote is, and I love when this happens again, be you, do you, for you. And that's a quote by me. So, with those intentions set, we're going to have a conversation today. You can get your own U cards where you can set intentions for yourself and play a game, the U game, with your family at IamWilliamBrown.com, and all the other tools or items to help you have a deeper understanding of you are also there. Or you can have a conversation with me at IamWilliamBrown.com. Just schedule a free complimentary conversation with me to get a deeper understanding of yourself. So, with that in mind, I will introduce my word for today, and is fight. And was excited about this word because this word showed up for me a lot when I was a little kid, and there was a lot of things that I felt that I had to fight, and how I resisted fights and all that other kind of stuff. So fight and how it's shown up in my life has been there a lot. And so I am so excited to have this conversation with my friend. So as I do, I invite my friend in to have a conversation. Good morning.
Good morning, William. Pleasure to be here.
Oh, it is great to be here. And you know what? I have to slow down. I feel like I'm talking fast. I don't know if you if you feel that. And I think it's sometimes when I think that I am behind or I am distracted or something, I just try to catch up. But I will calm down and I will say, this is the moment where I invite my guests to introduce themselves however it feels comfortable.
Thank you. Well, obviously, you can see on the screen. My name is Alison Boyce. I am a I am an Alaskan, displaced and living in South Carolina. I was born in the territory of Alaska. I've been down in South Carolina now for about 7 years, which is where I met William. I'm retired. I'm a home canner, love my animals, stay at home. My husband's a gold miner. We own a gold mine in Alaska. So those are some of the things that make up me. But I was really interested by your cards because they spoke to me. The first one
Hmm.
you said, I am full of grace, right?
Hmm. Right.
I was born on a Tuesday, and I don't know if you remember that old children's rhyme Monday's child is full of woe, whatever, however it goes. But Tuesday's child is full of grace, and I am a
Hmm.
Tuesday child. So that spoke to me. I'm the
Wow.
clumsiest person full of grace that you will ever meet. And then he said, I am heard.
Hmm.
That has been my goal all my life. And
Hmm.
probably one of the things that I have fought for is to be heard. So when you said those two cards, I thought that really sums up who I am in so many ways. So that's really what I have to share with you as far as an introduction.
So there is a music playing. It's like, "Hey Jude." Did you hear that?
I do hear that. It's not in your head. That's a
Oh, okay. I was like,
bought me years ago, and it plays Beatles songs on the hour because
oh,
I am a Beatle person. Have been since I
oh,
was.
oh, okay. So I was just like, does
No, it's not in your
do
head.
you hear that?
Does anybody else hear the music? Yes.
So okay, that's great. Okay, I'm just okay. I'm back with you.
Yeah.
And so no, I really appreciate that. Sometimes I think within the when I pick the cards or set the intentions, I think it's just for me, and it really warms my heart when other people kind of find encouragement and find that for themselves. So really, thank you for sharing that. And the quote card, I don't know if the Hey Jude comment kind of got in the way. I didn't know if be you, do you, for you, if that set with you also.
It does, but it didn't have quite the impact of the other two.
Okay, I got
Being
it.
myself has taken me a long time to find out who I am, so I could be me or do me and all of these things. So it did. That's something I've worked on
Okay.
for
Well,
almost
well, well.
3 years.
Right. Well, wonderful. So, and that's the what I say, the beauty of the cards is not just to just kind of fully own that, because there's sometimes when I draw a card and I don't feel that way, the next question is, why is that? And
Mhm.
it's like, why doesn't this resonate with me? And it's like, okay, and then I can see, and then I can work through that and just kind of go from there. Because some days, I'm running through walls, I'm really kind of feeling that, and others days that I don't. And so I think that brings us to our word of the day, and fight. And so, how does fight land for you?
This was fascinating. When I found out my word of the day, first I was really intrigued how you came to that word for me, because most people say, "Oh, laughter, she's so funny." I have all the labels that you talk about of being
Right.
this, really fun person to be around. And I hadn't really thought of the word fight to be the one to discuss. Fighting has always been a huge part of my life, and the more I thought about it, the more intrigued I became with that word, because it has so many meanings. It's such a deep word, and I never really considered it before. But growing up we all use the word dysfunctional, but my father was mentally ill. He was a child molester. And so I grew up fighting for control for the formative years of my life. Growing up in a household where we didn't learn to fight, we didn't learn to converse, and control was not something that we had or learned how to deal with. So when you talk about I am you, yes, it does resonate within me, because for a long time I didn't know who I was. I was just fighting to stay alive or fighting for my salvation. It was a battle. And battle physically, battle mentally, very much so. And so nobody in my family knew how to deal with conflict. So there's that level of fighting. And I thought of Fight Club when you said that this was
Right.
my word, and put on your boxing gloves. But then I also thought about other fights that we have. We have mental struggles. We fight, ourselves to keep ourselves from hiding behind the labels that we may have had, or hiding behind the feelings of lack of feelings of lack of worth. So we're fighting that. I always fought to actually get out and push myself to do things beyond my comfort zone. Fought because I didn't have the confidence. I fought for confidence. I fought to be a person who had value in the workplace, or had would people would want to hire.
Right.
So there's these different levels. And then of course, as a woman who's always battling her way, fighting that mental challenge, fighting to get down to a certain level, fighting. So fighting
Right.
is not always just this negative thing. Sometimes we
Right.
grow from it in a very positive way. And I learned that really this last week.
Wow. Wow. I am. Thank you for sharing that. It was really when my process of picking the words I shared with you before is like I have these lists of words that come up for me, and I just put them in in a list in my Trello, right? And then when I'm putting together the weekly uh, pictures of the people who've agreed to come on the show, I look at the picture, I look at the words, I look at the pictures, I look at the words. I do that a couple times, and then whatever word pops out, I put by the picture, and I was like, "Huh, Allison, fight. That's odd," and I was like, and I was fighting myself
Right.
from keeping that, and it was like, all right, let's just go with it, and let's just see, within the conversation how that will come up. How fighting has occurred to me. I really saw my formative years, as they say, I related to Rocky. I was a big Rocky fan, and so I just took on that. My life is a fight. My life, I gotta fight for. I'm this underdog. If it's my black label or whatever labels that I felt, the less than labels that I had to fight and defend for. And so I took on this Rocky persona that anytime there was something in opposition to me, if it's something that I wanted to do or something that I liked or something, I was going to fight for it. I was going to show people that, that I wasn't a bum, that I wasn't just going to lay down. I wasn't, that mentality. And that worked until it didn't for me. And it
Mhm.
really felt that even situations that I didn't need to fight, I was fighting. And
Right.
I was causing all of this distress and angst and all these things in my life and in my relationships because I was fighting. I was looking for an opportunity to defend my position or and it was just like just let that go. Just the more that I was able to let that Rocky persona, I still like Rocky, and I still find many lessons, but I don't have to take on that Fight Club or that Rocky persona to really live in my life. And it's really, now the challenge is that I have to decide, do I want to fight for this? Do I
Right.
care enough to do that? Now is that balance of asking that question. And it's very interesting for me.
It is. And probably the first 23 years of my life, I fought. I fought, just like you said, for anything. I didn't trust people. I struggled with confidence. I struggled with leaving home because even though I was in this terrible situation and had been in this situation, I love my parents. There was a certain amount of safety in being around them. And so when finally I made that break, I was, I don't know, 21 maybe, because I would go to college, come home. But when I met my husband, it wasn't instantaneous, but it was almost like I had an opportunity with his guidance, and he's incredibly wise, to have almost like a rebirth of how I wanted to approach my life. And we would go from the home, the city I lived in, the town I lived in, to go back to see my parents, and we would get about 50 miles down the road after we left, and I would have a complete meltdown.
Right.
I would be almost hysterical because the tension and the just being in that environment, it would destroy me.
Right.
And now I realize it was probably some form of PTSD. You're going back into an environment that was extremely difficult.
Right.
And finally, my husband told me, he said, I have never thought I would tell anybody this, but you're going to have to make a choice. Are you going to stay married, or are you going to, continue to put yourself in this situation of fighting? And it was, I don't even have a word to describe it, oppression, that you can't handle it. And we have these situations afterwards. And I had to make a conscious choice of who I wanted to be
Right.
and how I wanted to handle my life.
Right.
And yeah,
No.
it wasn't overnight. It's an ongoing learning experience.
Right. It is no, and I appreciate you sharing that. I mean that because that really sat with me because I've in the last 5 or 6 years, there have been those moments, those crossroads in my life that am I going to fight or am I going to just kind of just say the hell with this and
Right.
and walk away and just kind of deal with something else. And it wasn't, and for me it wasn't that I was, I didn't want to fight or I didn't it wasn't important. It was, do I have do I have the fight in me to win, to take this out? I'm not just going to do this just to go through the exercise of fighting, right? It is
Right.
like I this means so much to me. And is it going to cost me my relationship, my sanity, my life even, to really stay in this fight? And there's a saying that, sometimes you have to, back up so you can fight another day, right?
Right.
For me, it wasn't fighting the another day, it was this day.
Right.
Am I going to be available on this day? That is, that's what my happy today is all about. Is that I make a declaration that I am going to be in today and I'm going to make it happy. And I'm going to
Right.
fight for that. I am going to stay in that. I am going to see what comes up and what doesn't come up and all that other kind of stuff. And at the end of the day, my day, I had a happy day because I made that decision first thing. And that was a fight to even get there.
Right. And I'm smiling from ear to ear because you talk labels are what you talk about. You discuss labels. And I was the child that was told, heard every morning, don't bother Allison when she first gets up because she's grumpy in the morning and just leave her alone.
Right.
So of course, hearing that and being told that, it just reinforced that I was grumpy in the morning, so leave me alone. And I wore that like a mantle almost, the pride. And
Right.
then when I got married, finally after about a year, once again, oh wise one, my husband said, you know what? I love mornings. I really enjoy mornings. I like getting up. I like having my coffee. I like starting my day in a positive manner. And I really don't like fighting in the morning or seeing somebody be really unhappy.
Right.
So since you have a rigid schedule, you get up and go to work, and after you've gone to work, I will get up and start my day.
Right.
And that
Mm.
worked with us for months until finally one day I found myself talking to him through the door and then talking to him in the bedroom. And finally one day saying, would you just please get up with me so we can have coffee together? And
Right.
breaking that. And I realized at that time, or I realized later, that
Hmm.
this fighting that I had wasn't always my parents' fault. They
Right.
they taught me how to do it, but I
Hmm.
took it on like I was ready.
Right.
And now I try to approach my day positively, but I'm always asking myself too, when something comes up that really bothers me, is this going to bother me in a week? Is it going to bother me in a month? Trying to figure out how much of an impact it will have upon my life. A lot of times I find out it's not going to bother me tomorrow, and I have to just walk away. Doesn't matter.
Right. Right. No,
It's about
I totally get that. It goes into the labels that, I am my labels and I'm not my labels at the same time. I am a fighter and I'm not a fighter. And I don't have to
right.
be a fighter in the morning, right? I don't have to be a fighter in these situations, all the time. I can show up as someone else. Yeah, I just really, what's coming up for me right now is, I want to acknowledge you about a fight that I was willing to walk away from. And you're like, okay, where is this going? One of our connecting labels is Toastmasters. And, I've been in Toastmasters for, almost 20 years. And I just really, it's like, 18 years and some months or so. And I've reached the point where there was a recognition of DTM that was like, a project away. And that has been a fight for me for the last few years. And there was a part of me that was going to give up that fight. That it's like, because I was questioning, why do I want that? Is that important? Is that a fight that I need to be in right now to finish this thing? And my dear friend Allison said, "Yeah, let's go after it. You are more than distinguished. You are not that label, and you are that label, and you're going to finish this damn project. And this project, and not only are you going to finish it, you have already finished it. You
Right.
already finished this fight, So
Mhm.
stop, doing that. And so I just want to acknowledge you as being someone who reminded me that that fight was already done. That fight was over. And the more that I embraced that, there was no more fighting that needed to be done. And I just, like I said, I just want to acknowledge you for that, because there was so many ways that I was just willing to walk away from it, but it was
Right.
already I had already conquered that. So
Accomplished.
just thank you.
You're welcome. You did the work. Get the recognition. Not that you're going to get a big parade, but that you have that in
Right.
your file somewhere. You did it. And as I listen to you, I think about me, my continual thing that I give up on periodically, and is the weight. I battle weight, and it is a battle. And this is probably one of those fights that I think is really a positive fight. It's not something like the physical fighting. I believe that mental fights or struggles, I think of fights
Right.
as struggles, mental struggles, we grow from those in a positive way, hopefully, if we really seek within ourselves as to not only why we have this problem, but what are we willing to do to make corrections. And that's a
Right.
fight. It's
Right.
food is an addiction, just the same as when I was a smoker. And I have thought sometimes, well, maybe I'll just buy a pack of cigarettes and be done with the weight. But it's not trading one addiction for another. It's
Right.
finding out and realizing that I I don't need to be that slim girl I wanted to be when I was 18. But
Mm.
I do want to live to be around to bother people like you for at least another 20, 30 years. And health
Right.
is really important. So my reasons for losing weight are now different. Not that I won't be really happy when I'm the slim girl I wanted to be when I was 18. But
Right. Right.
right,
The
fighting is
byproduct. Right.
a complex
Right.
word. And I had no idea. I'd never given it
Right.
this thought.
Right. No, it is. There's this. For me, as I said before, I maybe I talked around it. Fight. There was always this aggression, right? There was always
Mm-hmm.
this fear. There was always this all these other things, and that I couldn't see, or I had no connection to the positive side, the empowering side of being in that. And there didn't have to be the fear and the aggression. Even in the what is it, the fight, flight, or fear, or
Right.
there was a guest that I had, or fu. She added the fourth one, right?
Right. Right.
Fight, flight, fear, or fu, right? It's like, what mode are
Mm.
you in? And I think that's what's happening in our brain. But we get to decide what frame that we're in, where what way that life is occurring to us, and how we're going to respond to it, or not. And I think that too often, that fight mode kind of kicks in as that survival mode, because we're trying to, and I'm speaking for myself here, that
Mhm.
I'm trying to protect a reality that I have about something, or how I want
Mm.
to I want to protect my marriage. I want to protect my integrity. I want to protect all of these things. So I am deciding that something just came up that's questioning my intelligence. So am I going to fight for that, or am I going to just so or I'm just going to walk away from that, or and it's that type of thing. Like the first thing is fight, but I am trying to move or hack the system, right? To see that maybe the first mode or the first gear isn't fight. You know, it is something else. It's whatever I decide. I can decide what mode I kick into, or what modes are available to me, or how fight shows up.
Right. And that's fascinating because it leads me into something I was thinking about last week. And I was thinking about actually the fight flight because I'm all those fight, fear, flight. I'll be in and out of a room. I can't stay in one place to fight. I'm back and forth. And then if I don't F you, of course, in
Right.
the flying part for about 5 minutes.
Right.
I think there's something before the fight that I struggle with, and that's frustration. Because
Got
to
it.
me, frustration, fight, and in my relationship with my siblings sometimes, and even my husband especially, is communication, and that's something I didn't grow up in a household where we had solid communication. We thought we were intelligent. We thought that we talked really
Right.
well, and we did. We had great vocabularies, but we didn't talk to each other in a meaningful way to
Right.
solve problems. And when I think of you mentioned Toastmasters, which I really wasn't going to even talk about, but when people say, well, why have you been in the program so long? I think the one thing that keeps me in here and the reason I stayed is because of trying to learn how to communicate effectively with people, not only to give a speech or to do something in a meeting, but when I don't agree with them, to be able to express that in a way that doesn't create that frustration.
Right.
And our spouses, I'm sure, in my house anyway, Dennis is never going to communicate as well as I do. And Mom
Right.
is never going to open up to me the way I want him to.
Right.
And sometimes that creates some frustration until I realize that he's not going to communicate because he doesn't just vomit words like I do. He sits and he thinks about it and then he has something to contribute.
Right.
But frustration is really my catalyst for that type of fighting very often is it's like my head just starts buzzing. I can't really think clearly. And that frustration builds and builds and builds. So I've had to find a way to say, okay, I'm exceptionally frustrated right now. I can't even think to talk to you. I need to go outside. I need to go and, go in the bedroom for a while. I need to get away from this situation right now. And it's not really a flight mode. It's just to clear my head, literally,
Right.
and I think that's where people have told me, oh, you need to let all that historical stuff go that happened decades ago. You need to let it go. Well, no, you can't. It's in your DNA. You've been hearing it since you were a baby, the fighting, how to communicate. 20 years of your life, that's in you.
Right.
And sometimes people get over it right away, and
Right.
times people are like me and they're continually working through the fight.
Right.
And
Oh
they-
no, I totally get it. What just came up for me is fight, flight, or freeze or something. I think it's freeze.
Mhm.
Yeah, like that. Just like, oh, you didn't say freeze, but I when you said frustration is the catalyst for sitting into the modes. I think the more that I think about it, I think it's my curiosity is my catalyst. It is it whatever I'm curious with, then it becomes, and my curiosity causes an awareness. You know, then the awareness then creates this. How am I going to respond to what I'm aware of, right? like
Yeah.
and then it's like game on, right? It's like and then we can go from there.
Right.
How you are saying, and I don't know why Toastmasters has come up in this conversation for me, but I think one, because it has been a fight. It has been a fight, a stay in or stay out, and it really wasn't Toastmasters for me. It was, am I going to stay in the conversation of being an effective communicator?
Right.
And is Toastmaster helping me stay in that conversation or not? My framework of communication is, I say you need a brave sender and a prepared and willing receiver. And I got that from being in Toastmasters because for me, there was a lot of conversations and a lot of speeches that I wasn't brave.
Right.
So I wasn't communicating with people. I was just saying speeches. I was just saying words, I was just
Yep.
doing it. So I was feeling that I'm not connecting to these people. I'm not getting a damn ribbon, right? Because I wasn't brave, right? I
Right.
wasn't brave. And at the same time, there weren't people prepared to listen to what I had to say, because of whatever, another reason. There's a number of reasons why we're not prepared, or even willing to understand some of the crazy things that were coming out of William's mouth. Right? It's like, yeah, I'm not going there, right?
Or the
Type of thing.
it is different than what we want you to be in a Toastmaster program because you're
Right,
exploring, you're
right,
curious, and most of us just go with the flow. You know,
right,
when you're talking to me, and I'm fight and labels are really, really part of who I am and the things that I've had to battle against. I was 18 and I was going to college. I was a theater major. And in the middle of my second year, my advisor told me that not only should I reconsider my career goals, but I should get a job. I should not try to get jobs where I had to speak on the telephone, use a public address system. There was none of this back then. So, but this would
right.
have been, none of these
That's
conferences.
been on the list too, right?
No, you shouldn't talk at all unless it's one on. And it destroyed me. It literally destroyed me. I ended up
Wow.
leaving college because not only did I have to reassess what I wanted to do, because I was really malleable. Somebody could
Right,
say something to me and I would just throw it all away. And I didn't fight for myself.
right.
But the reason that she felt that way is because I had a lisp and I slurred my words sometimes. And yeah, there were probably some really valid points that she made, but as a communications person, she probably could have handled it a little bit better and
Right.
offered some ways, or how to correct this situation. And I don't think I lisp too much anymore, and I slur my words when I'm really tired. But that's another reason that I have stayed with this program, because who would have thought that eons later, I would be sitting in front of you, in front of my computer, talking to God knows who,
Right.
and who are listening and just saying, that label, I conquered that. I brushed that one off. I have other ones that I still work with, but some of those are self made.
Right.
And I
Right.
have to determine which ones are self made and which ones I have no. It's like that quote where it says it's nobody's business what other people think about you.
Mm. Yeah.
That's kind of a hard one to get past.
Right. I got
But
it.
there's a lot of truth in that. Their labels really that they put on me, I really can't deal with, and I don't have to deal with because they're not mine.
Right. Right. And just really, no, thank you for that. I mean, this, I think I remember that, I was also a theater major too. So that's another connection. We have so many connecting labels, right?
We
Right.
do.
Type of thing. And that is, for me, I use the performing arts to hide. And it was because I was this shy person that didn't know myself, right? I was just quiet and shy. I wanted to, I wanted skills to basically show up in the world. So so character development. I created, and some people don't understand or really appreciate that I created Bill. You know, I am William. I created Bill. Bill was this nice guy that was able to talk to people, that was everybody's friend, because the shy person was ignored or devalued and wasn't heard. And
Right.
I didn't want to stay there. And so, and, it, that my creation of Bill worked until it didn't. And so, really, using my skills from the performing arts to create this character that showed up as if this was this person. I was told by, my professors that, you know, you could be very successful, if you stayed at this. But it wasn't, I didn't want to stay at it. I
Mhm.
didn't, there was a part of me that says, you know what? I do not want to pretend to be somebody else. I didn't want to be on the stage as someone else for too much longer. I appreciate, I honor it, I do all that other kind of stuff, but that is not my life.
Right.
And so when some people felt that I threw away a career as being an actor, you know, I gained my life,
Right.
and so I the fight was to get into my life, to really show up as myself, to really be able to let go those skills of showing up as somebody that I wasn't. And that's
Right.
what those labels were for me, realizing that I can hide behind my labels all day very nicely. And I'm very comfortable, I've created, in my second book, The Journey to Stay You, inside my shell, the image, I was very comfortable in there. you know, I was very,
Right.
I had lights, I had things on the wall, I had all the, all the things that I needed, but I wasn't myself, and I was missing my life. And it's like the encouragement of really inviting people to just be themselves,
Right.
is, and it's really frustrating and fascinating at the same time, why it's a fight to be ourselves.
I don't know. And I don't know if everybody has that problem. I know a lot of people who have had, who have, and I know other people who say they never have. So I don't really know. I think in my case, all I can speak to is my own upbringing. And
Right.
honestly, it was, I don't know if you've ever read a Shirley Jackson novel, but it was very much the House of Horrors type of thing. It wasn't the
Mm,
physical part, it was this mental illness that just eroded at everybody living in squalor. And I'm not exaggerating. I mean,
mm,
I didn't really even know how to take care of a house when I got my first house because we lived like, I'm not asking for anybody's sympathy, but we kind of like life among the savages.
mm,
And so, the fighting that I grew up with now, I realize that a lot of times I have been the reason that the fight exists. I have three siblings, and one of whom I talk to. Some of those breakups in my family have been my fault just as much as their fault. I don't know. I
mm,
don't. I just look at myself, and it's such a cliche, but I realized when my brother died that life is filled with cliches because they're true. That's
mm,
why I say these things. But
right.
I am a work in progress.
Mm,
And sometimes I go, man, when does it end? When am I going to be at the level that I need to be, or that I want to be, and probably when I'm dead,
right.
because I'm just human, and I make mistakes. I'm sometimes too outspoken.
Mm,
Sometimes I feel like that square screw in a round hole in coming to the South because I'm very outspoken,
right.
and it's all a challenge.
Right.
Trying to look at fighting now, just in this last week since you approached me with this word, I'm really trying to do, and I think I'm coming along there to do a mental shift and not just think of fighting as Fight Club or Rocky, although Rocky's about accomplishment, right?
Right.
But to actually use this word in a way that I can see the positive aspects of fighting, And a
Right.
lot of those are my inner struggles,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, how
No,
to,
I appreciate that, and just how, a large part of my journey, and in the language that I use in it is how my life occurs to me. How it doesn't mean that's how it is, but it's my understanding of it, how it occurs to me. If I, and it's really sometimes it's in comparison of others, right? It's
right,
like I think by talking to someone or seeing somebody's social media page that they have it together. And then I look at my life and it's like, well, geez, I don't have it together. So, or, or I can look at their page and have a judgment about, oh, well, I only see their highlights, right? Or I only think, I see what I see. I see
right.
what I see on social media and I see what I see in my life,
You see those
right?
pictures taken from this angle, so nobody's double chin shows, or
Right.
and then you see them in person, and it's like, oh my god, there it is.
Right. It's
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 there.
like,
You have
who
it.
who are you? I do think that there should be a rule that you have to update your profile picture. It has to be within the year of of it. It's like sometimes it's like I meet some. It's like I have no idea who you are. Because all I see is the Facebook profile picture, and that's not that's not you, right?
You're 4 years old, now
Right, right.
like, I don't want to see a picture of your father. I want to see you.
Right, right, and it's like, who is this, right? So, but no, we could talk about this for hours, and I really appreciate this. I think, and sometimes there's like laughter in the fight. There is joy, there is grace in the fight, and I'm just so glad that we were able to really talk about some difficult things, or and I felt some of the fights that you had to go through, but to see you on the other side of those fights, it's just a gift. And so, is there anything that came up for you within this conversation that you
No,
want to leave us with?
my father's would have been 100 years old today.
Hmm.
And that's a significant, even though he's no longer with us, he would have been 100 years old. And it took me a lot of years to actually find a level of understanding him. And I wanted to clarify this because I threw out some pretty heavy things about him. And I realized at one point that his fight was far worse than mine would ever be, because he was
Hmm.
really a tortured man. He was mentally ill. And because he was bipolar, he had those windows of sanity, and it
Hmm.
tortured him because we would see the real man, the man he used to be, versus the person that was preyed upon us or created this totally horrible, well, I still think horrible time for his
Hmm.
children.
Right.
I just wanted to throw that out there, that
Hmm.
that we we divulge secrets, and we tell people our stories, but his fight was a whole nother level of the word fight.
Hmm. Got it.
And that's really
Yeah.
what I wanted to say is, I forgive him. I wish it hadn't happened the way we grew up. But I do have a greater understanding now, as I've gone through my problems and worked things out in my head. I've been able to look back with a little bit more clarity and a little bit more compassion.
Right. No, I get that, and I think, um, I appreciate the. It's not the clarification, but adding that. But I think that is a message that I'm learning in my self discovery journey, is that we're on this journey alone with others, right? And how we see and how we process and how we are heard on our journey is totally different. And there's still a lot of other nuances and things. And the more that we're able, to give grace for how their journey or our journey is showing up for other people, the more that we can see our humanity not as a negative, but in a positive way.
Exactly.
And so thank you for for sharing that and reminding us that no matter how difficult our our journey is, or how tough our fight is, it is we don't know.
Right.
We don't know, and we can't appreciate the level of fight that someone else is dealing with.
Right.
So thank you, my friend. This has been a
Thank
blessing.
you. Thank you. A lot less painful than I thought it would be.
Well, that's good. It's like,
Thank
it's like when when I send out an invitation of people to have this conversation with me, they're like, yeah, and it's like, wow, yeah, this conversation in front of other people, right? Right? It's like there. That's a big aspect of this, Bill. That that's causing a lot of other things, right? So,
Well,
um,
I think I need to hit the road because my music just turned on and it's blaring in the background
right,
now. So everybody is
right. So.
listening, probably going, "What happened?"
Right. And so great. So I'm gonna put you back in the green room, and
Perfect.
I'll close the
Thank
show and I'll
you
come back.
for this opportunity.
No,
Talk to you
thank you.
again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, that is great. I really appreciated this, and it's kind of sometimes that as I said, there is this the reason why I try not to fight, or try to not look at the word and kind of embrace that, is because of all the other things, the fear, the anger, the all the other, the aggression, the confusion that came along with it. And what I got from this conversation is that it doesn't have to. None of those emotions, none of that occurrence has to come along with your fight. Fight. There could be a clarity in your fight. There could be a lot of other strengthening in your fight. There could be a lot of other things that come along on that fight, that journey with you. And that's what I got from this conversation, and the laughter, and the grace, and too often, going back to my word of you are heard. Too often, I feel like I have to fight to be heard, and I'm gonna let that go, because I don't have to fight to be heard. I am heard. And so the more that I embrace that I am heard, I'll just say what I believe that I need to say, do what I need to do, and all is right with the world, as they say. The world wants you, the world needs you, and the world is waiting for you. So go be you. I will say, as a programming note, I have an extra bonus conversation today at 3 o'clock that I would love for you to join with me today. And the word is, is. Have fun with that. So I'll see you at 3 o'clock. Have a great day.